Welcome back to Film Files. This is part 2 of our film score discussion segment. So if you didn't catch the first one, shame on you. Go back and do it again. And that's what I tell my 8th graders. So, in case you didn't know, I'm a teacher. So, we were talking about the necessity of music in film, and should there be so much music? And Josh, you brought up a question, something like, you were talking about 80% of what people actually hear and capture in a film is the scores, the music, not really dialogue and things like that. And should we be going more towards maybe you should just ask your question.
Yeah, so
that's better.
I can't remember what the ratio is, but essentially sound outweighs visual. There's that sound again.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
Looking at you.
Yeah.
You're looking at Mike now. That's why he's doing that.
Exactly.
80%
Yeah.
of the show will be this now.
Yeah. So it's distracting me. So anyways, yeah, like the viewer experience is more heavily weighted on sound than it is on visuals. And so my question was, do you think that we should try and make our audience change and pay attention to all the other things that are in film to help them appreciate those things better and make them better viewers? Or do you think that we should just stick to what's currently effective? Because I think that's a constant debate that's going on in film, as to like what's the current norm and who wants to be artistic and take that risk, right?
Well, I mean, it's kind of tough because we see it sometimes. I mean, for example, this podcast really doesn't have that much background music or noise.
Right.
It's just voice, it's just discussions, which is like the AM radio, talk radio, things like that. Not a whole lot of audio to them besides just the sultry sounds of people's voices. We see that as well with some like GoPro videos where it's, the done in one sort of things where it's just one moment. But even then, oftentimes they're cutting out a lot of the audio and they're doing music playing over the audio that they're capturing. Right. And I mean, we can talk about how much audio a GoPro camera can capture.
As we can all tell you.
As we can all tell you.
Yeah.
Where's my GoPro at? So, I mean, we can do that, but it's like, I mean, I wonder if that's where we're going to go with VR footage, with 360-degree footage. I'm waiting for the movie where you put on your goggles and the movie's going and you can just look around and see the entire scene all around you. I'm just waiting for that day where that happens. And will there be a genre for that? Possibly, but it just seems more stimulating, more enjoyable if you have good music with you. Music can make or break a film, but I think it will always be there and it should always be there. And Cameron agrees with me.
Absolutely, actually, I do.
Yeah, but my question is, do you think the percentage that we're at is
too much?
Is too much, yeah.
I would still say, personally, no. Just because I feel like music has been, not just in film, but just in any kind of entertainment for ever.
Yeah.
For a very long time. And it's just another tool of all the tools that you have as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, to accomplish the story. And obviously, even if it is, like, say, let's just stick with the 80%.
Right.
I mean, that's all of that isn't music. It's also going to be sound effects. It's going to be, I guess everything else is technically a sound effect, but it's going to be like, ambient noise, cars rushing by or whatever might be applicable to the scene. And all of that keeps the viewer engaged. Because, I mean, if you've ever watched any video without audio at all, it's super awkward.
Sometimes it can be a little too intense, if I can interject. Like, there are scenes where, I don't know, maybe a scene in Saving Private Ryan or Breakneck Ridge? Brokeback Mountain? What? Yeah, let's... maybe not Brokeback Mountain. Let's keep the music going there. But it's like where if there isn't music, it's either going to be super boring or it's going to be potentially too intense, because the only audio you're going to pick up are the really intense sounds. So having music can actually soften a scene that you're seeing. where it's like really intense combat moments. If they take away the music and it's just the audio of the combat, it gets a little intense sometimes. So,
but I think too, having a orchestra playing tense music behind a battle makes it even more so.
I guess it can.
It's different. I mean, it's different levels, and it's we're talking about an art form, right? And there's so many different ways to do art, right?
And there's tons of different ways to balance all of these elements to create a different effect.
So you're really saying though that more like the music level that we're at is acceptable?
I think overall, yeah.
Okay,
Personally.
but I'm gonna make you disagree with yourself. I
Okay.
can't believe you. I can't believe the hypocrisy from this guy. This is unbelievable. I mean, right between breaks, you were telling us something about Shiny Song?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. You don't think that went too far?
Huh. Yeah, I see what you're doing here.
Mm-hmm. I'm helping you through the repentance process right now.
So for me, I think overall, when we're talking about balancing, that's one thing.
Right.
When you're taking it to a slightly different discussion of how there can be those moments where a song can just be bad. It's not necessarily that it was bad to have a song there. It's just that the song itself was awful. And that's my opinion about that. I mean,
in case you don't know, we are
with me.
talking about Moana, the Shiny Song that the giant crab sings underwater.
And it's so annoying.
It's almost like they were really worried about that song being in there because at the end, the crab goes, "Wait, did you like the song?"
Okay, that part made it
really
kind of better, that last bit.
See, because it
But like
took
the
it
whole
away
time
from
I'm
me.
watching this scene, and it's just this really weird, awkward song that really didn't mesh with any of the other music in the rest of the story, and just this awkward crab that I have no clue who the frick this is. It was just a weird moment for me. I did not enjoy it myself, and I think that was more to do with the style and the choice of how they wrote that song, if that makes sense.
So I guess what you're trying to say is music definitely has its place in film. It has to be there. The audio visual stimulation and journey you go on, very, very important. But just like there can be bad scenes that are shot that are poorly pleasing to the eye, there are songs that just don't quite make it pleasantly into the ear.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
That was my biological discussion of the night. Okay, so yeah, there you have it. Well, that kind of wraps up this discussion, unless there's anything else you want to add in about bad film scores.
No, I think the takeaway for what the very last, topic of discussion is anything used poorly that takes a viewer out of the experience, that makes you remember that you're watching a movie instead of like enveloping you in the whole experience. I think that anything that does that, in my opinion, is bad. And so try to avoid that when possible. And obviously I don't know that that's the exact circumstance what we're describing with Moana, because it just could have been a bad song, like, right?
Yeah, and I think that with a bad song that can do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But that's, especially this one song, it's definitely subjective. I've seen it both ways. Some people saying that they also hated it, and some people saying that they loved it. So
It's amazing to me that we've gotten this far into this segment without at all discussing Beauty and the Beast and the Beauty and the Auto-Tune.
Beauty and the Auto-Tune.
And unfortunately, we are out of time. So thanks for joining us before we started ripping on Auto-Tune in a Disney film that definitely didn't need it had they, I don't know, either gotten somebody who can sing or trusted Emma Watson. Anyway, thanks for joining us. And on that note, really appreciate it. If you want to follow us, you can find us on social media. Southampton Productions is where you can find most of our stuff. And Southampton Prod on the Snapchat. Not the Hip Chat, but the Snapchat. Thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.